left off adding our header here. One thing I went back and did is add some hover states for these links that I forgot. And I also wanted to go ahead and make a mix-in based on this styling here that we can just include here as opposed to doing it another way. Some of this stuff will be specific to this particular button, so I will show you what I keep and what I don't. Right now I'm just going to copy the style and head to our mix-ins folder. I'm going to add one called buttons. And I'll go ahead and include that on this one here, which is the mix-ins master file. So then we can do at mixin button. I'll just do full name. And we can pass that CSS through. And then the beautiful thing about mixin is you can pass parameters through. So I'll do color. Text color is always going to be white, I think, assuming we use this particular mixin. I think I'm going to leave it like that just to keep it simple so I don't have to remember what to pass. The height shouldn't have to change so much, I don't think, anywhere else we use it. If we do, we'll make a new mixin that's like button small or something. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and leave it as is. We do need to make these color since that's what's going to be passed through. And one thing I would also like to do is remove this parameter that's distinctive to this particular button in the header. So I'm going to save that. We'll head back to the menu. I'm going to delete everything except that top line. And then actually want to include this first. Button brand primary. So if all goes right, nothing should change. Except when that happens. There we go. So cool. So now anywhere else in our style sheet, we can go ahead and add that to a button. What I like to do on top of that though is actually create button classes. So instead of a mix-ins here, I might do like a, I don't know, components folder, and that will create a master component. To remember how to spell component, SCSS, and I'll create one that's buttons. And in our master style sheet, I'm going to include this stuff. Probably put that right here. So we'll do partials, components, and then components again. If we save that, we should be set. And then if I do just a basic button class, I'm going to go that route and pass brand primary through here. And then we'll do the same for a secondary button. And I think for now I'll omit this. We'll start there. I'm assuming I'll need different sizes as time goes on, so we'll probably come back through and create an actual master button class, and then have one that's like button small, all that stuff, just so you can like rinse and reuse some of this stuff. I think it's just more better set up to scale, I should say. One thing we do need to include here for that to work, of course, is the buttons file. Cool. So at any time, if I have an element on the screen, I just want to add that class to it. Now I can do so. I don't have to like define it, add a class, go back to the style sheet, add that specific buttons style, yada, yada, yada. So cool. Let's move on to the next section. And the next one is going to be just the like kind of introductory, like what she does. I mean, that's what that is here, but this is also a little bit more. So it should be a fairly straightforward part. We're going to be in the home page. I'm going to add a new page header thing here. We'll go to our site folder and the blueprints folder, home page, and we need to add and we'll just give it a label of brand strategy block. Oops. And it's going to be a headline. So if we refresh, there we go. Now there is a plugin that exists that's like an accordion thing, similar to custom fields in WordPress, advanced custom fields. I'm not going to worry about that right now because that's just like for me. And on the end, at the end of the day, I don't know that she'll be in here editing this stuff left and right. I'm sure she will, knowing her. I'm going to leave it as is because it's just one big sheet right now, which is fine. It's simple. So the next part, we want that title and the lead. I'm gonna just do title text to make it simple for her. And I'm doing capital everywhere, I think. Yeah, okay, so we'll keep that going. There we go. You can actually define if you want to type if it's required. I think it's just, and see if it's required. True. Let's pass it through. Yeah, okay, cool. So we get that little asterisk there, which I'm gonna retheme this as well, by the way. I might not show you that verbatim, but it's essentially just including a new style sheet in our config file, which is right here. We define a debug thing too. You could set another style sheet and do a bunch of stuff in this file actually, so it's pretty neat. Okay, so we've got the title text. Let's add a text area for that next portion, brand strategy content. And we'll do type is text area. Cool. And while I'm at it, since I added required true to that one, I'm going to do the same for this. Definitely want a heading. I mean, all these realistically are required, but okay. Okay, so we want to also add this newsletter form. I think we're going to make that like a site options kind of deal. So it's going to be global. We'll be able to reuse that later in the footer, I think is where I have it as well. So we'll have to include that. For now, I'm going to add this content since it's required. Okay. Save it. Let's output that stuff. Okay, So now that our hero is done, we can head down to this main portion, and I'll create like a section for each section. No, go figure, huh? So let's call this brand strategy block, and then we'll give everyone like a block class. Okay, so inside we're going to have that icon. I think I might use a pseudo selector for that. Just make it as a background image in CSS, include it there, that one there, and the rest will just output. So we want this to be like an H2, or let's do H3. And we'll do H2. Screw it. Class. Brand strategy title. P. I might just make this a div, to be honest. Okay. So in these, we'll output that content. We do that this way. Page, and I have a terrible memory. What is it? Brand strategy, block title. For this one, we'll just do HTML. We can close it. I think this one I want to do the Kirby text one. That one's just in case I or she uses Markdown. We'll go ahead and output it as rendered HTML. Basically any text area, I would go ahead and probably put that. Kirby text. There we go. I love it. Okay, now that's going to be, the whole section is going to be full width, so we need to contain it inside with, you guessed it, a container. Cool. We're going to want a row for this stuff too, for our grid, and since this is Flexbox, we can just tell it based on the class I provide here to be centered. It should go ahead and do things for us. Yeah, cool. That's native to Flexbox. If you're doing this just with basic grids and floats, that won't work. So definitely, I mean, you can just do text align center in the same case, but it's a little more fluid this way. All right, so let's go ahead and start styling this section. I'm going to create a new style sheet altogether just to keep this stuff modular, but it will be in that home folder. So let's find that. Pages, home. We'll add, let's see, brand strategy block. And be sure to include that. Cool. I think I called it the same thing. So brand background's going to be brand primary, color white. Let's double check. What am I missing? Something's here. Components, file not imported or unreadable, style. Okay. Oh, I'm going to rename this. I had it as a singular, so component. And that threw my server off, of course. So let's try that again. Something's still up. Throw error, stringify, generated. What? Components. Components style. Is it this particular file? No. Tried to parse CSS standards here. Let's try with post CSS. Okay. Oh. So it is that file. I guess it's my mixins. Doesn't like that. Well, maybe I'll omit that for now. That sucks, but yeah, it's the mixins. Huh. I don't know what the real issue is there, but that's life, I guess. This thing's kind of bugging me that it's not perfectly on our grid. Let me double check that it's just me. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the header real quick and go to our menu and target this last one. We'll give it padding, or the actual last type of the LI. So that looks like this. Of type, I'm gonna do padding right 0. Boom. So now we're lined up right here. Okay. That bugs me, the button thing. I don't get why that's working wrong. Maybe I'll actually just make it not a mixin and include it. Sadly, it's repeating code, but what's it? Buttons. So real quick, go back to our mixin. You know what? Maybe it's because the name the same. I don't know about that. So wherever the color is on this one, we're going to make brand secondary, and this one will be brand primary. So now hopefully we don't get errors thrown. Yep. That was it. That's interesting. Want some padding here. Glad that didn't work. Okay. And brain strategy title. It's got some crazy margin on it, and then probably just want to get rid of that. At least the margin bottom. Okay. So let's refer to our design. I think this is pretty large. We're talking like 36. I'm going to do this for now to see how that looks, and then we're going to try to duplicate it with rims. I'm going to say like 2 rims. There we go. And the content section needs this max width, I would say. And I wonder if you guys can see. I hope so. So we want text align center, of course. Actually, it already is, but for safety's sake. And then we'll give it a max width of like, I don't know, like 800 pixels and margin 0 auto. And it's considerably bigger than that, so we're looking pretty large. just me, or is the browser? Okay. I need to, for my sanity's sake, this text is just not looking the way I like, and I know why. It's all right. I'm gonna throw this on a body like David Walsh did here. I trust this guy. He's got some good articles. What we want to do is just go to our base file, throw those on there. And just because of a designer, like, okay, here's exactly why I'm doing it. Take those off. Boom. See how the text just gets real bold and kind of clunky? And here, turn them back on. Whoa, way better. So to me, I go with what looks better from a design standpoint. Obviously, you don't want to use like an ultra light font with this stuff because it will totally be almost illegible. So be careful with it, but I think in reality it looks pretty damn good. So I like this. I'm going to keep it, and it works apparently in just a WebKit and Moz for now. Now that that's done, I can breathe and it looks better to me. So I'm going to roll with it. I'm going to make sure this, oh gosh, not that wide. I might just go full width, to be honest here, guys. Yeah, that works. I'm going to go ahead and use this as a basis for our paragraph tags, or actually the base itself. Font size is a little big. Like, these are massive now. So let's go back to the menu real quick and adjust that. There we go. And I think that's going to be hard down the line, so I think we'll probably maybe just compensate. I do like the line height though of 2 rem, so I could probably just remove that and it'll still. Let's add that lightning bolt icon. First, add position relative to the containing element, and then we want to use a pseudo selector. So in this case I'll use before, since it's at the top, and we won't have content in there. We will have a background image to URL images. I think it needs to go. And what is our image? Lightning bolt icon SVG. And to be declarative, we'll do repeat, no repeat. Let me just make this image background. What is the width and height of that guy? I'm gonna actually use the software to tell me. 61 by 61. And let's see what happens there. There it is. Color is a little different. Okay, so we want it on the top, and left will be 50%. But then a neat trick with this, it's like, okay, that should be centered realistically, but you have to subtract half of what the element's width is. So in this case, to to be honest, we're just going to do this so it's even. And you do a negative margin of that width, so it would be negative 30 pixels in this case. So there it is, should be perfectly centered. And the next only thing to do at this point is to go up negative 30. We'll split it in half. Make sure the z-index, of course, is set. All right, just do something small here. Yeah. And that color should match this one, so that's kind of concerning. Wonder if I can color pick that. 43cc4. Yeah, they're a little different. Which one should I use, you guys? What do you think? The darker? I think so. So let's pick that and then go back here. Double check. I mean, on here it looks right, so that's kind of interesting. Let's see how that looks in their code. This is the beauty of setting a variable. I can do it all at once. So I'm gonna actually pick this color and make our variable that color. Okay, that did nothing. Let's see. There we go. Okay. Yeah, that actually looks better, in my opinion. Now, the last thing we want to do is add some HTML for a form. I'm going to make this eventually an actual input kind of field. Realistically don't need to though, because there's nothing there for Alyssa to really input. I guess the placeholder could be changed. I don't know. I think what I have is pretty plain and simple though. Might scoot this over a little bit. So we just need a basic form for now. Should probably make use of MailChimp, so they have their own form you can embed into your site. I'll probably make a snippet out of it, to be honest, and then just embed it in multiple places. So an action, won't have it do anything yet. Class form, we'll do like div class form group, just to get containing element, input type email, placeholder, equals subscribe to my newsletter. And we need a submit button. This is just going to be an icon, to be honest. So class form submit icon. So that'll look janky, but it's there. They have the same style there and there. Yeah. I might make this kind of its own module. So we have components here. I might make one that's forms, or we'll do subscribe form. So instead of that, we'll just do the form, since that's what we called it here. And we'll probably go off of what's on the footer. Seems like more of a default option there. Document, okay. I might lose that question mark. And let's see, we want to be like, let's try that to start. Border, one pic solid, brand secondary for now. Oh, well that's, I need to actually do the input. In fact, let's give it a generic class. Okay. So border solid. And what do we aren't including it. Happens to me all the time. I always forget to include the file. And it's not forms. Okay. Let's duplicate these, I guess. That doesn't make sense. How about not? All right, so that's finally working. There we go. Background, transparent, color, white in this case. I'll go ahead and style this one, and we'll append the other one once we get to it, or change the styles, I should say. Font size, font family. We're actually going to use the heading family for here, and I think you can do placeholder. I don't know if you can do that with pseudo. Let's try it though. Like, in placeholder, WebKit. Or wait, that has to be WebKit. That doesn't work. All right, so instead of doing it SAS, I'm not exactly 100% sure if this is accurate, so we'll do form input. Try this new one here. This one's new to me. And it's actually 1:, color white. See what happens there. Nothing. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I want it to not have that focus, so in focus outline would be none. That might not be like a good thing for accessibility, but I'll go ahead and make it like 20 and then decrease this width to like 380. It's a little more what we're going for. Okay, and go ahead and set that. Okay, background, URL, images, Where's that? Oh, that was in the theme before. That wasn't ours. So what I could do is, I know I have this arrow already in the file itself we're working in, so I'm going to go ahead and grab it from here and create an image as well. Arrow forward SVG, paste that in, and I'm going to give this one a different class. So just do like arrow. We'll do submit arrow. Okay. So we'll do submit arrow SVG and no repeat. Border none. Oh, it's arrow forward. No wonder. There we go. That's tiny there, but we can do width. Actually, we need to do background size is like 24 pixels. Yeah. It is black. I can't do that since we're doing it as a background images. I can't go ahead and do fill or anything on it. That's a sad truth about SVGs in that regard. One thing I can do that hopefully isn't going to hurt us is to give this a fill on the SVG itself. So maybe if I do that, we'll go ahead and be set. So let's try that, see if it changes. Yeah, so that's a small little hack you can do. If you go down the line, you probably want to do it a different way, so that's more dynamic and you can customize that. But I think in this case we won't be doing that. Well, actually I spoke too soon. We will down here. So honestly I'll probably just make another arrow and go with that. It's really not that big of a file size, so we won't be sacrificing a ton of requests or anything going on there. Notice that these are a little bigger. Okay, so we need to make this position absolute. It's going to go do that. Then we want to do top, and there we go. Probably want it to be like -2 from the looks of it. Or that. There we go. And then right would be like 10 pixels. Maybe a little more. No, I think 10 looks good. And then I think we'll go even higher. There we go. So the input itself we could do just on a hover. This will not matter on mobile, but we can do like a background of RGBA of white, very light. Nope, didn't mean to rhyme there, but I hope you enjoyed that. And then include a transition of background, 0.3 seconds ease. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So when we focus, outline none, but maybe we'll do like border color as brand primary, darken, like 10% or something. So you got that going on. Probably go a little darker. I want the color, I think, to be that color too. So placeholder will be white, but then when you start typing, it'll be this color. Maybe even darker. Yeah. Okay, and I think it could be even a little bit higher in height. Just looks a little crammed at the moment, but I'm liking it. So since we did that, this needs to go back down a tad. Primarily, if you hit enter or if you click the arrow over here, it should be good to go. I think if we do like a hover on this, we'll maybe do my little transform trick. Translate y, just -1 pixels. And since we can't control the color here, maybe I'll just set the opacity to like 0.9 or 8. We do want to include transition again. Let's do all here. Ease. There, I'll do like 0.2 and ease. Okay, actually, it helps if you spell right. It's kind of nice. I might do just to signify, hey, you can click that. Cool. All right, so I think that wraps up this section. We will continue on to the next one, which looks like this in the next video.